It is a mixed bag in terms of the picture, in terms of inflation. We have seen a slight fall, not as much as some people were expecting, in the CPI rate. But, of course, everyone's attention focusing on that 19.1% rise in the cost of food. For some people, a lot of things are now unaffordable.
Yeah, we have an inflation crisis. We're really worried about what we're seeing with food prices. And we can all know that the Ukraine war caused some of this, but it's going on for a lot longer, and the government was saying it would come down, and it's remaining stubbornly high. And I'm really worried about families and pensioners who are going to the supermarkets, are seeing the price of bread, the price of cheese, staples, continue rising at record levels.
I mean, there's an interesting letter has been written to the government by the Joseph Rowntree Foundation and others, suggesting that universal credit actually be tied to the cost of essential goods. 9 in 10 people, they say, that are currently on universal credit going without at least one of the items that they identify as essential. What do you make of that as an idea?
Well, I think people should listen to Joseph Rowntree. We'll look at the idea, but they are champions in understanding how people who are vulnerable are faring, whether it's people on universal credit, disabled people, elderly people, and the government just hasn't done enough. There are many people out there who are really, really in crisis. We're seeing record numbers going to food banks. All the warnings I see, whether it's in my own constituency or frankly across the country as I go around in these local elections, the cost of living is the thing that people are worried about alongside the NHS crisis.
I wanted to talk to you, actually, about those set of local elections. We'll talk about what actually might happen in just a second, but a kind of a theme, a thread we've been pulling on here in Breakfast this week has been voter identification, the necessity for photo ID to be able to cast your vote. Where are you? I suspect I know where the Liberal Democrats are on this.
Well, we voted against it.
Yeah.
We think it's wrong. The government have failed to make the case. They claim it was about voter fraud. There's no evidence about this at all, and it will make it harder for some people to vote. And when you look at the sort of things they've done in implementing this, they've made it OK for retired people to use their bus pass. I think that's great. I think that's right for photo ID for older people, if we were to have this awful system. But they've not allowed young people to use their bus passes as photo ID. That is very suspicious, and I think it suggests that the government's motives behind this change have nothing to do with voter fraud. They're everything to do with the selfish interests of the Conservative Party.
But we might not get a proper indication, of course, until the next general election. Turnout, certainly for local elections, dramatically lower than we expect at generals. I do wonder, though, how are the Lib Dems going to be getting on? We heard from the Conservative Party chairman at the weekend. His view is that they will be losing probably in excess of 1,000 seats. I mean, are the Lib Dems going to be picking up? Are you going to be winning here, there, everywhere?
Well, I think the Liberal Democrats will make some real gains. 4 years ago, we made massive gains, 700 gains, so we've got to do even better than that. But when we're knocking on doors across the country, and I'm going around England, many of the local election fights, we're seeing lifelong Conservatives really angry with the government.
On what basis? Why?
Well, they think they betrayed them with cost of living. We were just talking about inflation and food prices. But they're worried about the health service. You know, they can't get an appointment with the GP, ambulance delays, record waiting times for appointments.
I mean, is part of that not just general fatigue with a government that has been in for the best part of a decade and a half?
Well, I think it's because the government made these promises on the health service, on police, and they failed to deliver very, really badly. I mean, take police, for example. They promised more police officers. They haven't arrived. The numbers promised. We're seeing real problems. For example, police are not attending burglaries when people have been the victims of burglary. And that's why Liberal Democrats have been campaigning on police alongside health and alongside the need to help people with the cost of living crisis.
But I suspect you're not going to do as Greg Hands did and provide me a figure that we can measure the Lib Dems' success or otherwise at the local elections.
Well, I'm not, because I don't take the voters for granted. We're going to be working right up to the close of polls.
But you are going to make significant gains.
We are going to make gains, absolutely. I think the Conservatives are in expectation management. They're trying to play with everybody, saying it's going to be even worse than it might be. Who knows? What I do know is that Liberal Democrats are campaigning hard. We've got lots of great candidates up and down the country. We're fielding more candidates than we've done for over a decade. We're excited because we've got lots of local people, community activists, who want to represent their community and make that community voice heard. So I think the Liberal Democrats will do well.
Of course, you're leader of the Liberal Democrats nationally. I wonder if you have any sympathy for the man who leads the SNP as indeed First Minister of Scotland, Humza Yousaf, finding himself in a bit of a sticky situation. Do you think given the allegations that have circled so close to Nicola Sturgeon, that the appropriate thing to do at this point would be for the SNP leader to suspend her from the party?
Well, I'm not close enough to the details, so it'd be wrong for me to comment, to be honest. And given that there are strict rules on police investigations, it also would be very unwise for anyone to comment on that. What we are seeing, though, is the SNP...
Just in general, when people get arrested for crimes, is there not then a necessity on the party, on any party leadership, to look at the allegations and make a decision on suspension, not expulsion, suspension at least?
Well, as a leader of the Liberal Democrats, when we see that, we take it very, very seriously and we act very, very quickly. But I'm not going to comment, if you don't mind, on police investigations ongoing. That will be wrong. But I think what I can comment on is what I'm seeing in Scottish politics. I'm seeing an SNP that is very divided. I think they're focusing on issues that aren't the main issues of the Scottish people, which are like England, right? They're the cost of living, they're the health service, they're things like sewage and the environment. And the SNP government is too divided to tackle those. They remind me, I have to say, of the Conservatives, who are divided, who are factionalised, who are infighting, who... both the Tories and the SNP seem riddled with scandal. So, you know, whether it's in Scotland or in across the UK, I hope we can get rid of both the Conservatives and the SNP at the next election.
Good luck with that one. It might be a little bit of an uphill battle.
We are going to work very hard. And if people want to get rid of the Conservatives in many parts of the country, particularly in these local elections, they need to vote Liberal Democrat. We are the main challengers to Conservatives in huge numbers of seats. And I hope they'll vote for the Liberal Democrat for our positive policies on the health service, on the economy and so on. But if they just want to get rid of the Conservatives, the Liberal Democrat vote is the powerful vote in many areas of the country.
So, Ed Davey, great to have you on the sofa this morning. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.